How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer on SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. We're going to be taking a segue once again from our 2025 Kansas City Chiefs player expectations to dissect one of the bigger games on the Kansas City Chiefs schedule. You may remember me talking about this or doing this exact same segue earlier in this podcast series when we discussed talking about week 2 as the Chiefs will go up against the Philadelphia Eagles in their Super Bowl LIX rematch. This time around, though, instead of talking about players or a random week in the schedule for the Kansas City Chiefs, we're going to talk about, in my opinion, the second biggest game that the Chiefs have on their schedule, and that comes in week 9 against the biggest AFC West rival that the Kansas City Chiefs have currently in the Buffalo Bills. But before we dive into that, just some housekeeping, as I have told you so much throughout this time leading up to training camp. Training camp is almost here for the Kansas City Chiefs. It will begin on July 21st. July 21st is when the Kansas City Chiefs training camp begins, with their first practice being held on the 22nd. It goes until around mid-August, earlier in the 20s, and like August 20th, August 22nd, one of those times that's when the season or the offseason will conclude. Football is almost here, ladies and gentlemen, as let's dive into the expectations and a breakdown of week 9 versus the Buffalo Bills. A fun little tidbit that I was looking at earlier this week was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills in their last 10 matchups. They've been split right down the middle, dating back to 2017, and of course the Chiefs' victory over the Bills in the AFC Championship that sent them to their third consecutive Super Bowl appearance. These guys, these two franchises know each other like the back of their hands, and just primarily it's only continued since Josh Allen has become the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, when Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. These guys have matched up so well against one another that it almost becomes a must watch when you're sitting down at home after a long week, turning on the game to see the Buffalo Bills take on the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm fully expecting that if the Eagles game against the Chiefs doesn't surpass this, I think the Buffalo Chiefs game is going to be probably the most watched game for the Kansas City Chiefs during the regular season this year. And I'm talking about like normal regular season games. I understand that now that the Chiefs have their Thanksgiving game against the Dallas Cowboys and Christmas against the Denver Broncos, those two games are likely to attract a lot of views. I'm talking about Bills fans, Chiefs fans, and even fans that aren't fans of either one of those franchises. They know it's going to be some good football. They're going to turn it on. The only thing that the Kansas City Chiefs have or might be willing to do this season, as far as following on track since Josh Allen has been in the starting position for the Buffalo Bills, I think the Chiefs are fine with losing in the regular season to the Buffalo Bills if it means that they take them down in the playoffs. As we know, Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the Kansas City Chiefs offense, defense, and the entirety of the organization, they find themselves in a position all the time during the regular season where they drop games to Josh Allen and company in Buffalo. Once again, the Chiefs will be on the road taking on the Buffalo Bills, meaning that the Bills are going to have that advantage, not only in a crowd sense, but also a weather sense. As we know, there's a lot of games down in or over in Buffalo that can cause or result in snow or just cold weather. That being said, even in the playoffs, the Kansas City Chiefs they won another one-score game against one of the best teams that the AFC had to offer. I would go as far as and say that if the Chiefs lose in the regular season, I'm fully expecting history to repeat itself, that if the Bills and the Chiefs face each other in the playoffs once again this season, it's going to favor the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm talking about favoring as in going into the game. As we know, as I've broken down so many times, these two franchises, they know each other like the back of the hand, so much so that it's going to be difficult for the other to get the edge. It's going to on the upper edge. It's going to be a very, very, very close game, and it always will be. One thing that I am looking forward to, though, in Week 9 is the Chiefs don't have a bye week until after the Buffalo game, meaning that a lot of these players, whether they would like to admit it or not, for the Kansas City Chiefs, will be beaten down. They're going to be tired. 9 straight football games with only a week off in between most of their games. It's only going to take a toll on the body. I would go as far as to say that if the Chiefs have their one bad performance, it might be in Week 9. But I think the adrenaline is going to kick in and help them in staying competitive. As I've touched on both on the site and in the podcast series, the AFC is open. The Kansas City Chiefs are still the team to beat, and they should be the team to beat until someone else proves that they can beat them. And more often than not, during the regular season, the Buffalo Bills have proved that they can beat them. When the lights are the brightest and Buffalo has history on the line, the Kansas City, and they're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, more often than not, the Kansas City Chiefs, at least in the recent history that we've seen, have been able to sweep the rug right underneath the Buffalo Bills. I think that if there is going to be any competitiveness in people saying that the Chiefs dynasty is over, the Chiefs have reached their limit of their Super Bowl winning window, I think that the conversation would turn on its head immediately if the Kansas City Chiefs were to take down the Buffalo Bills during the regular season. Week 9, put it on your calendars. It's going to be a superstar quarterback matchup between two familiar guys, the reigning MVP Josh Allen versus two-time MVP Patrick Mahomes. There's going to be pressure from the defense in Buffalo going up against the offensive line for Kansas City, an area and a test that they should be ready for come Week 9. I talked about this earlier in the podcast series when I broke down for the Philadelphia Eagles game. If the Chiefs' offensive line can prove themselves to be stable, sturdier against some of the best defenses in the league after what we saw in the Super Bowl, I think that it's going to only fare well for the rest of their season following Week 9. They get the bye week, and then their latter half of their regular season doesn't scream out for help. There's not a whole lot of big superstar name teams as they was in the beginning part of their schedule. So long as the Chiefs stay competitive with Buffalo, they've got a chance once again to win that regular season game and punch another ticket to the playoffs. That being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, check me out over on X at Dom Mincello, where I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage as we get closer and closer to the 2025 NFL campaign. If you don't want to follow me, you can follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI, where all of our stories by our wonderful writing staff get published, covering the offseason into training camp throughout the regular season. You're not going to want to miss it. Totally free. That being said, though, Chiefs Kingdom, as always, be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow.